Welcome to a very special edition to Talking with Kevin and Son. Today, this production is brought to you by RMK Productions and the 10 United. Our mission is through the power of story to uplift, inspire through voices and stories, experiences, perspectives using the framework of education, learning, and teaching and modeling. Our purpose is to help other people every single day. The reason why this episode is so important and so special because we're going through Black History Month, and today is President's Day. I have on the panel Miss Denise Lopes, educator, also native of not Black America or American. We have Ife, that is not a native to this country. Both Vanessa and I were born in the United States. This conversation in this special episode was brought about as it popped in my head, realizing that a 20-year-old had did a whole dissertation on Black history, and I'm curious to know. And to our listeners, this conversation for some may be very uncomfortable. This conversation to others may be very enlightening. This conversation to some may be a conversation you want to turn a blind eye to. And that's the reason why history has to be truthful history. So with that said, let me welcome my guest and thank you for taking time out of your day to be on Talking with Kevin and Son. Thank you guys. Hello. How's everyone doing?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, all right. Everyone gave a quick wave. I'm going to go through and looking back at our country and what's taught in our public schools. I think we're learning the same thing. And I say think, and I'm using that word lightly. Black people were brought to the United States in the hulls of a ship. They were enslaved people or indentured servants. People like Harriet Tubman, Sigourney Truth helped enslaved people escape from freedom. President Abraham Lincoln freed the enslaved people. Fast forward, we went through the civil rights movement. We had people like Rosa Parks that refused to give up her seat to a white man. We have Martin Luther King that organized the Montgomery bus boycott, and which we know his I Have a Dream speech has become infamous. But we also know that the lack of education and the lack of this conversation has been very uncomfortable. And some historians are trying to turn a page and a blind side to what the truth of our history is, both Black Americans and also white Americans, and our responsibilities and our role to the truthful content of our history. And I think the only way that we can embrace and identify our history is to be truthful on all aspects, as uncomfortable as the history and the conversation may be. So this conversation for some will be uncomfortable, and some people will tune out instead of tune in. This conversation for some people that say because of my age, that happened way back then, it has nothing to do with me now, may enlighten you and reconnect you with your history and your responsibility for creating history. Everyone on this panel right now, believe it or not, you're making history of being part of a Black-owned company, a Black-owned broadcast, and you being able to share your story, which will go down in history as a conversation needing to be had. So with that said, I'm going to ask each one of you, and this is a conversation I normally ask of most men that have been on my show. I've only asked two other women. And I'll start with Denise. When was the first time that you discovered here in America that you were Black? And tell me that story.
For me, I've always known I was Black. But when I went to UMass Dartmouth, that's when I was told that I wasn't Black enough because of my hair. It was too curly. So I started noticing little things. In high school, I didn't, because in New Bedford, I had a lot like Cape Verdean, Brazilian, Portuguese, so we had, and Spanish, so we had all that mix. But when I got to college, it was like some of the teachers too would treated us differently, the white teachers. And I started noticing that the color of my skin matter in America, like how I looked, it mattered, like if I would get opportunities and stuff like that. So that was kind of shocking for me. because I'm like, I'm smart like everybody else. I got to the school like everybody else. So why am not, I'm paying the same money as everybody else, or maybe more. And it was like, I'm not black enough for some of the Black Americans that were here, and I was not good enough for the white. So it was just a mix, because Cape Verdeans, it's Portuguese and African mix. Because Cape Verde it was the slave trade, so that was the point where they come from Africa, they go to Cape Verde, and after they will go to the Caribbean, that's where they were came to the Americas. That's how the slaves were sent to with the ships. So my background is the masters raped the African woman. That's how Cape Verdeans came about. So for me, in Cape Verde, I didn't feel that. I didn't feel like we were the same because we knew our history. We knew where we came from. But when I came to America too, even the Cape Verdeans here, they treated us different because of different island, of how dark you are, how light skinned you are. So I start feeling that within my community. So it's just kind of a shock. So I start looking around and realizing that the color of my skin really matter.
Ife, now let me back up. Denise, where are you originally from?
I'm from Cape Verde Islands, west coast of Africa.
Okay, so you are, by Joe Rogan's definition, a real Black African.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not, from by Joe Rogan, and I'm gonna say this a couple of times. I'm gonna segue over to Ife. All right, that go-to guy. I'm gonna ask you the same question, my young brother.
Mhm.
When did you discover you were Black?
Okay. Most of, well, I came into the United States when I was about a year old. So I've lived in the Twin Cities, Minnesota. I've lived in Lubbock, Texas. I've lived in Arlington, Texas. Then moved to a small town of Orangeburg, South Carolina. So I've been in South Carolina for the majority of my life. When I moved to Orangeburg, South Carolina, even just being in elementary school at the time, I was called African booty scratcher. And I was just like kind of curious about that because it's just like, why this terminology? Or being asked certain questions like, did you run with the cheetahs? And do y'all have housing? Do y'all have technology and stuff like America does? So thankfully, my dad is a college professor. And between my dad and my mom also has a nursing degree, when I would come back from school and ask why I was called certain names, they sat me down and kind of explained things from their area of understanding, which later piqued my interest because I actually minored in African American studies. Because I think one of the biggest things to do, because we're all descendants of the diaspora, whether we can trace it back to the continent or not, we need to look for what connects us and not what separates us. But that's a conversation for another day, Kevin, because that's one rabbit hole.
All right, Nessa. All right, you're the reason why we're here today. 20 years old. You know, you represent the youth, both you and Ife. You wrote a paper, and we'll get into that, about Black history and what it meant. But I don't even know if you know how to answer this question because you may not have experienced it. I know I have. But when did you find out you were Black, and what's your story behind that?
First of all, thank you so much for allowing me to be here on this call. The second thing I want to say is that I do agree with both Miss Denise and Mr. Ife. I do remember being Black all of my life, as a young person, as a baby. I would remember just looking at my skin and my mom telling me how beautiful I am, that I'm a beautiful young Nubian princess, right? And so learning about that, and learning about how to take care of myself and the care of keeping of myself, has gained wisdom and has been instilled in me as a child. But the real question is, when did I discover that I was Black? I would say, being in a predominantly white school all of my life, I have constantly felt like I've been picked on, with the teachers acknowledging the way that I write. Oh, you're writing your T's cursive writing. We don't require cursive writing. We want your T's to look like a cross, like Jesus Christ cross, or the Holy Cross, or there were students that would say abrasive things. I would remember last year, when I was in a class, I was in my English class, and there was this question being asked, if if you could have any pet, small or big, what would it be? And his answer was a monkey. And then he kept repeatedly saying, monkey, 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 monkey. Oh, I want a big black monkey. I want a big black monkey that can take over the world and over the cities. And, the fact that he said black monkey triggered me. Like, why didn't he say red monkey? Why didn't he say white monkey, yellow monkey? But because he used the word black and he emphasized it, right? It caught me off guard, acknowledging the fact that there are 10 students in the classroom, majority are white, and 3 or 4 of us were black. And I took a step back, and I waited after the class was over just to talk to the teacher. And to this day, in my part, I felt like nothing was resolved. And I think it's our job, as a Black community, especially youth, with everything that has been happening during the pandemic. And I do feel strongly, sorry for if I seem long-winded or if I seem like I'm rambling a lot. It's just that I have a strong feeling with the Black community. We have to stand up for what's right. And if we want our white allies, or our white neighbors, or our white people, our white community members, to understand what it's like to be Black, we have to do the job at representing that. And one part of my job was to let it be known that what he said was wrong, and how we need to be protected, how I need to be protected in my English class. The last thing I want to touch upon is what happened at the insurrection on January 6th of 2021. That was a very troubling time for many Black Americans. I can't even fathom to explain how much hurt I was feeling watching that on a television screen, on our national news. It was just so troubling. And, I think we just need to do a better job, as a community, as Americans, as citizens, because a lot of people come here thinking of the American dream. And I mean, we come here for a dream, right? We come here for a hope, but sometimes we land on it and it doesn't, the journey isn't probably what we wanted it to be. But I mean, like, hey, we're living a free life, and just this platform alone, I thank you, Mr. Kevin. I thank you for this platform, because just by this platform alone, we have the freedom and acknowledgement to talk about being Black in America.
Thank you. And I appreciate you guys taking time out of your day in order to have this conversation. And we're only warming up, because when you brought up the conversation that someone connected you to a monkey, I look at the pictures of Charles Darwin's Evolution of Man, and how we grew from being on all fours to walking on 2 feet. And at the end of that revolution was a white man, and they call us a monkey. I look at the fact that the biases that we have amongst our own people, based on our skin color, where we came from, and how we treat each other, we're supporting the unhumane act that was brought upon us and forced upon us when we exited the hull of those ships and stood on platforms next to livestock, and our value as a human being was less than a pig. We have to look at the uncomfortable conversations of how the family dynamics were broken down, how a husband that took a wife, and how a master took that wife, impregnated that wife with his seed, and forced a man that had given his heart and his love to a woman, and forced him to raise his child, so only that the master would have free labor. We cannot forget that textile in the North was created for Black people in order to build and put things together. Our crops, cotton and everything else in the South, why did they put together a cotton gin because they were wearing out black men and we got our freedom and so forth. If there was a story of Arkansas hanging 237 black people that returned to the South, and instead of freeing them and allowing them to leave, they hung them, and the phrase "only good N word is a dead N word," and we forget that history and we shadow over it. And then they complain the fact that when they stormed the Capitol building, that justice would be served if the same situation happened and the people of color or any other brown skin, there would have been a mass funeral following that. So when we talk about our history, we have to address our own biases within our own culture. We have to identify our connection with the word, and I'm going to bring it up with the N word. And I've not publicly ever said this word, and I choose not to give it life by going ahead and changing what I was taught because it was not allowed in my house. Because in my house, the history is that this is what white people did to the person they called the N word. So I do not look at it as a term of endearment, and nor should anyone that knows their history should embrace that word and saying that we are taking back control. How you take control of a situation is standing up for what you believe in and being a positive example of the change to be. So when I talk about that word, I'm going to forego the question to people that are a lot brighter than me. You know, Denise is an educator in one of the most racist parts of this country, Boston. And if I offend anyone, change, because I don't care. I'm speaking the truth. If you're in denial of it, change your history by making new history. I'm going to ask that from Vanessa. I'm a Southern boy, so I'm going to ask the question for ladies first. And I will tell you my story later on of how I came to the terms of discovering I was Black too. I'm not going to bypass my share. So Denise, educator, the N word, is it something we should embrace or a conversation we need to be educated on? Because I know our music supports the fact that, you know, our people are booty shakers and we got shiny things all around us or whatever. And as long as it has a beat, we profit from it.
Yeah, for me, I do not like the word, and I don't allow people around me to use it because it was very offensive to my ancestors. Like they went through a lot because of that word, and they will call that word because of the color of their skin. So when I see people say it and I hear it, I'm like, no, that word should not be used. You should know your history. For me, it's a lot about know your history, know where the word came from before you use it. If you don't know, why should you use it? And one story with me, when I went back to Cape Verde in 2014, you know, Cape Verde, they listen to the music, they don't know it. And they were calling each other that name. And I'm like, that word, I'm like, do you know where that word comes from? Like, it's the same as, so I explained to them, like, to connect to the Cape Verdean history. So my family was like, oh, we should not be using that word. So I had to educate them because they were listening to rap. And it's like, oh yeah, everybody's saying this word. So I'm going to say it too. And it was like, my sister looked at me, they're like, whoa, Denise is going to educate them right now because I just had to stop. And like, when you don't know something, and the other day, one of my students got in trouble because he's from Brazil using that word at school. And he goes, oh yeah, I listen to the music. That's how they're using all the F words and all those stuff. So I had to educate my students like last week because they just came from Brazil about that word too. Like, you do not use it in school. You do not use it anywhere if you don't know the meaning of it. So for me as an educator, it's like you need to know your history. You need to know how this word affected your ancestor and the people before you, and what's the reason you here, because if the other people didn't fight for this word not to be used, you wouldn't be here.
Vanessa, the N word.
I'm debriefing as you all go along, but I completely agree with Miss Denise said. But furthermore, as I can piggyback on what you said, Kevin, about the N-word and it being displayed in music. As a musician, as a singer, as a songwriter, spoken artist, actress, I hear it being used as a term of endearment. But do I agree with it? Not really. To be honest with you, I wouldn't say it. I wouldn't phrase it to greet my friends and family members, my cousins, because um, we know it as a long term that's been given during slavery times. I don't remember the right definition of how it came about, but I believe the N-word was, I think it had something to do in the time of Africa and how they called them the N-word, because I think it was somewhere about where exactly they were in Africa, and how they were called the N-word, but I don't think it's necessary.
All right. Coming from Africa, it was a difference between a well-placed file. Coming from Africa to the way it was expressed here in our country with the ER.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That was their interpretation of oppressing a person, calling them something other than what they were.
Mm-hmm.
Ife.
Mm-hmm. So I am heavily in the music and entertainment realm, being that I've been a serial entertainment entrepreneur for 11 years. The first song that I got the pleasure of executive producing is called Black Boy Joy Remix. The 3 MCs that I brought to that track, Crazy Carl, K.O. Bracey, and Mason Parker, all Black fathers, all in the Carolinas, and actively in their children's lives. And in that song, absolutely no curse words. So with due diligence, that song will do what it's supposed to. And the remix, Black Girl Joy remix, is on the way soon. And shout out to my guy, D Blaze Sapiro, for making that situation happen. With that being said, and I struggle with this, and let me be perfectly clear. I struggle with this almost every day because I want to work with artists, and I'm saying this live so these words can be held against me. In the Carolinas, it seems to be a focus on trap rap. And I'm not against artists that are in trap rap. But part of that word is trap. We're perpetuating stereotypes that our women are only certain things, objectifying them, saying that, you know, we want to be rich, we want to use weapons against each other. There's no humanity or compassion in it. So with that being said, and it's a process for me because I'm in the mix with a lot of artists and in the mix with music and entertainment. So I don't like the use of the N-word, just like I am an African living in America. I'm not going to take kindly to someone demeaning me because of my heritage. I can't take an eraser and erase Nigerian American. Nigeria is in my blood. I've had friends even tell me, you don't have an accent, Ife, but some of your mannerisms and stuff you say, that's completely Nigerian. So why are we celebrating parts of us that were given by people who only wanted to manipulate and use us? We should much rather be using terms as brothers and sisters, you know, diaspora, kings and queens instead, because trying to turn that word into a word of endearment, they don't care about us. Did Michael Jackson have a song like that? They still don't. And even to Kanye's point, and Kanye's a controversial figure, so I'll say this, he had a line, racism's still alive, they just be concealing it. Now it's 2022, racism is alive, and they just be revealing it. That part. If we're not going to treat ourselves well, how are we going to expect people who really don't even have an opinion about us? Like, they don't. How are they going to look at us if we're using a term where its origin is pain and origin is derogatory to a whole ethnic group? So I'm not perfect, but I will do better. That's my response to that.
Now, let me ask you a question, since, you know, I feel a certain kind of way with our music for profit. Are you stating that you still will record and release music with that type of content in it for profit?
I will actively be trying not to. I don't tell artists what to say. All I can tell them is this can get you further and do this, that, and the third. I don't cap anyone's creativity. But I noticed that I said I'm actively not trying to represent trap rap because there's so much more quality music that comes out of the Carolinas. So indirectly, I'm steering away from artists and situations where that type of attitude and word usage would be used.
Well, you know, when this lands on me this way, it's like you're half-ass landing a plane.
I know. I'm not half-ass landing. I want to not have that word used in the music.
Well, I will say this to our young brothers and sisters. You have a responsibility when you release content, be it video, film, music, and so forth, to see how it lands on the people, especially our young people, and the impressions they make, and also an interpretation and perceptions of what people look at us. Because I know if you look at the movie, one of Bruce Willis's Die Hard movies, where he was walking in the streets of Harlem with a sign that had the N word, and the way our people responded, you have to realize that the word can't be used in a term of endearment if the reaction to people that understand the history of the word is not going to be positive. And the responsibility for music, the content, is to tell the truth in the story and not embrace the truth of the story that other people want to tell and have us embrace it. That's like smacking you in the face and telling you that it felt good. So let me move on. Black women today, as a representative of the motherland, and what's really important, because I know me as a man, and I know Ife, we've had this conversation, we embrace and we encourage and we support our queens. The way that men respect you or treat you of any color, how are you guys received as queens that you are in your community and your everyday life?
I'll be what? Can you repeat again the question?
I'm just saying, are the men that are in your life, be it your father, your uncles, your brothers, your boyfriends, your husbands, or whatever your partners may be, are you embraced for the woman that you are as a Black woman, or is someone trying to make you something other than what you are?
They always embrace me because I demand to, like, because I'm the way I present myself, I'm not gonna allow you to treat me a different way. And like my father, my brother, even my son who is 17. So it's like you need to, and as a mother of a boy, like I have to tell him like he has to respect women. He has to be able to, like, we go on dates, he has to do certain things, open the door for me, pull my chair, and the kind of stuff. So since he was like 5, we've been going on dates and try to teach him because the father's not in the picture. And it's like, that's the kind of things. And my father knows, and it's like, I'm a queen, and I call everybody a queen. So a lot of people sometimes they're like, oh, your name, your plate for your car should be queen, because I know we kings and queen, and I call my son a king too, and everybody else, like, because we are queens and kings. So I remember the man that I respect, and I want to be respected, and I respect other women too. And I'm the kind of woman, if I see somebody with something cute, I'm like, yeah, you look cute, I love your dress, I love your hair. And a lot of women, I feel that we tend not to do that as Black women, or as women in general. It's like a competition. And for me, the group of friends that I have, that I surround myself, is like, I support you, you support me. It's like we all queens, we can all shine at different time. So it's just like the kind of people I surround myself with. I don't like surrounded by negativity, no competition, no nothing, because there's a lot to go around for everybody. We don't need any competition. We just need to lift everybody up. And if somebody's doing something, I'm always supporting, and they always support me. So I like that positivity. I don't like negative and like talking, gossip, and all that. So with the men in my life, so I embrace that, and they know. And I'm outspoken. I don't mind if you do something wrong. I'll tell you right there. Nope, that's not how you should be treating a lady, a queen. That's your queen. That's your blood. So for me, I'm lucky enough that they treat me like how they're supposed to.
And Nessa, and I know you, I know your family. Naheem is a good friend of mine, your uncle, and I know from your history and your culture that women are upheld and embraced. But the youth of America, embracing you as the queen, is that response positive or negative? And what message would you have to young people?
Ooh, that's a great question. For youth, um, I think that I'm sorry, can you repeat the question as for youth or for youth as young women?
As young men to you as a Black Nubian queen at 20 years of age, what's the conversation of young men your age as it's directed to you and your greatness?
Sure. So as a young woman, I can definitely say for young men, there are some that come very far and in between. There are some that are very respectful that will hold the door. And even when I'm alone with my mom, we go out like on a date, like as Miss Denise said with her son, we might go out and go to a restaurant. There might be a young man that we recognize from school or from an event that I performed in or from a community engagement or just out of the ordinary will hold the door for us or will um, maybe ask if she might need help with something or, but there are others that are very disrespectful, if I could be frank, that we just use the term, the N word. A lot of young women are being called the B word in music or in general. And so I haven't been referred to one, or maybe somebody, I don't know, might have said something about me. I don't think they have, but um, to get back on track, sorry. For young women as a whole, I feel like we've been very disrespected. You know, but by the music, and people in the hallways. I just know, like in high school, there's always times in like grade school and middle school that young men are trying to find themselves. Young people as a whole, we're always trying to find ourselves and the world in school and the way that we interact with people in our daily lives. So of course, people are gonna be caught off guard sometimes. Um, but for me, I've always been respected. I feel like my mom has put me in rooms to be respected, and she's also laid the foundation. Like, this is my daughter. This is the way you're gonna treat her. No, she's not gonna be alone with you in a room. No, this isn't gonna happen. Even if I'm working on music in a studio room, no, you're not gonna treat Vanessa like that. I'm her daughter. We already have that connection. So every time that I'm out somewhere, if I'm respected, if I'm being respectful, I normally get that respect back. But to encourage somebody that will be watching this, just know that you are not alone. And I can completely understand, we evolve generations over generations, especially Generation Z. We constantly evolve, and I appreciate how open we are about our race or our sexuality or our anything that we stand up for. We always come together and we talk about it, and we create spaces to talk about those sort of things. So, but as a young person, I feel respected. But for maybe, yeah, I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to be long-winded. But for your question, do young men respect young women? They do come very far in between. There are some, but mainly some people that I have witnessed are can be disrespectful.
All right, young men, when you see Nessa, you know how to come at her. And for you older dudes, Denise, yeah, I don't have to say how you come at her, because I'm going to tell you, you will be dismissed right away if you don't come right. Ife,
Yes.
I'm going to ask you a question.
All right.
And I'm going to turn this around, and then we're going to talk about Vanessa's report on history, and we're going to close with that. Colin Kaepernick took a knee, and interpretation and perception of America divided all of us, because based on his interpretation, there was conversation based that it was a slap on our military personnel, and the world ignored the reason why he took a knee is based on justice for people that the justice system was standing on their throat. I don't have to mention George Floyd. I struggled since the Kaepernick and George Floyd murder and the many more murders that went along with it. What makes you proud to be an American?
Wow, that's quite a context. What makes me proud to be American is there is opportunity. You can literally network yourself into a situation that can change from a generational curse into generational wealth. America is a democracy where the voice of many is heard. In America, I've been able to meet people from all cultures, all across the world. And at the very minimum, when people respect each other, there can be a conversation, there can be an understanding. And that's important because America is one big melting pot. Even the people that say that, okay, I am the definition of being an American, their people came from another place other than America. So I think with the America I see all types of people, all types of races, all type of ethnicities, backgrounds. But what counts more, and I guess I'm kind of rephrasing MLK to a bit, I want to see somebody for the content or context of their character and not their skin tone. Because there have been people that are of my skin tone or of my background that have done me the most harm to my mental health and to my overall well-being. Meanwhile, there are people that don't look like me who are willingly able to listen to me and want to help me. So, you know, this is Black History Month or Black Future Month. And I say Black Future Month more than Black History Month because we look at the past. Eventually, we have to look at the past, look at where we are now, which is, that is a gift, and have these conversations. And I'm honored. It's a privilege to be in this platform with amazing people. Thank you, queens. Thank you, ladies, for being here with us. Kevin, I don't take it lightly that I call you every day, because ever since you decided that you wanted to work with me, I've had to level up to be a better person. Because anybody that finds a mentor that's active in bettering your situation, there are people pouring into you when usually people are actually trying to empty you. So with that being said, and getting back to the point, I'm a naturalized citizen. So, hey, ladies, if I marry you, I love you. I'm not marrying you for the green card. You know, joke. But still, I just wanted to be said that you get opportunities in America that are very rare or next to none in other countries. So, you know, there's a saying that we have first world problems. Imagine trying to make things happen and you actually have third world problems, like not even being able to take showers, not being able to have drinking water, not even having a roof over your head. So everywhere has problems, but I'm proud to be an American. I'm also proud to be Nigerian. And like I said before earlier on this show, I look for what connects us and not divides us. That's important.
Vanessa, educator, beautiful Nubian queen. What makes you proud to be an American, a Black American?
What makes me proud to be an American in America is that even with our hard times, we still keep progressing. As the Black community, definitely we have definitely progressed. Are there times where we have hardships and difficulty? Yes, and it could be hard, but that's why we pray, that's why we, have therapy, or we do yoga. We find things that can help treat those wounds. So yeah, we are progressing. Are we progressing right now? Kind of, maybe not, but maybe, because Joe Biden is the seat of our White House right now. So I guess that's a way of progressing. But I guess progress doesn't always have to be the success of what happens currently. It can also be the progress of what has happened for years and years to come. So progress.
Denise,
Yeah.
Denise,
For
Denise.
me, like what he said, I came when I was 14, so more opportunities here than I had in Cape Verde. As a woman too, because in Cape Verde now it's different, but when I came, women did not have a lot of opportunities like school-wise and stuff like that. Now we have universities and stuff. But America gave me a chance to go to school, go to university, finish, like get my education, and be able to help Cape Verde, because I have a nonprofit that help non-privileged, underprivileged kids in Cape Verde, and education is my big thing. So we help the kids with school registration, like the uniform they have to have, school supplies. So America gave me a chance to be able to help. So for me, it's a land of opportunity, a land you have to take. Like as a teacher, I tell my students in America, you have two roads, the right way or the wrong way. You can be doing good, going to school, finish, and do something with your life and give back to your community, or you could go the bad way and be involved with like gangs, drugs, and all that. So it's your choice. You have that choice. You always have a choice. And that's what I tell my students. And for me, it gave me that chance to educate myself, to figure out how I'm going to help the ones that cannot help themselves. And if I didn't come to America, I wouldn't have that chance.
God bless you. Thank God in America embraced all of us with open arms. So we talked about being Black. Now we're going to get an education from a young lady, 20-year-old, and I'm curious to know this story about our Black history. She did a report on it, and that's kind of spurred the reason why we're having this conversation during Black History Month, that today is President's Day. So Vanessa, I'll wrap up right after this. Let's tell us about your what was it, a research paper you did?
Sure. Yes. So I did a research paper, but it was also majority was an event that I had created in school, and it has led me. That was from last year and a year before last, but it has led me to do an Instagram live and to just interview Black business owners here in the city of Boston, Black hairstylists, Black educators. I had a lot of Black teachers that are also Black business owners. And so um, we just talk about how Black history is American history. My mom actually made that slogan, and so it's like been. We did a Black History Month event. I want to say 3 or 4 years ago at the Milton at a library here in Massachusetts, and my mom said Black history is American history. So I constantly keep saying that throughout the Instagram live videos that I have. And, we just talk about what it means to them to be a Black American in America. Do they think that Black History Month is going to be still in existence? And why? And, 5 years from now, do they believe that, or what they feel that this whole America is going to turn out to in like 5 or 10 years, and why? Like questions like that. And like, who are their mentors, and why? What caused them to keep progressing during the pandemic, or even beyond when they were younger? What caused them to keep progressing right now as more mature adults? And so some of them have said things like, oh, Black History Month, they feel that is the shortest month of the year. And why not? I would think that as well, right? Because it's 28 days in a month, and we have other months that are 30 days, 31 days. And, but at the same time, looking back on history, and I said this in school and outside of school, that Black History Month was originated with Carter G. Woodson. And I made a report about it. It was back in 1926. The second week of February was dedicated in celebrating the life of African Americans, and that's how it initiated to Black History Month. And we honor him because he was the second Black male to graduate from Harvard. He had a lot of educational background to steer up what his goals were to do. for Black History Month. So I just think that it's important that we celebrate. Yes, it's important to celebrate all year round, but especially this month, because knowing that somebody that really honestly cares that we should be represented for a month out of the 365 days that we do have pagan holidays or white holidays and all of these different holidays that are celebrated with everybody, we get a chance to actually celebrate us. And that's amazing. Whether we believe it sometimes or whether we don't believe it other times, we still got to be grateful for something, you know, and to just not to be we have Martin Luther King Jr. Day, right? And that's the month before. So if you think about it, it's like a kickoff to celebrating the whole entire month, you know what I mean? So I think of it as a positive light, you know, and as in a positive spectrum. I try to think of things and it's kind of weird that I say this, but I think of things glass full, not that anybody doesn't. I'm not second guessing on anybody, but I try to think of the things, the glass full instead of the half full, the glass half empty, so to speak. So try to think of it at an open spectrum and try to think of things outside of the box of what's being actually given. Like, what can we do to think of this positively that's going to gain and rise this momentum of celebrating Black history? Because do we need to be respected all 365 days of the year? I honestly agree, because things are obviously happening outside of February. Probably, God forbid, something might happen in the summer or later on this year. We never know, but we honestly have to respect those that have passed on from last year during the pandemic. You talked a lot about George Floyd, and I have a special connection as well with Breonna Taylor, because her case is definitely hasn't, I don't think they ever did anything about the police officers, the 3 police officers that went in her house and killed and murdered her, but that's another story. So we definitely have to think about those things as well as Black History Month.
Well, I want to thank everyone on here. Ife, you want something?
I wanted to say this. If anybody remembers Anthony Hill from a few years ago, he was excuse me, he was a veteran and he had mental health issues and he was gunned down in violence. I knew him personally. He went to USC and he was a friend of mine. And he was a beautiful soul. And I'm just tired of Black people getting famous for being hashtags of people that we can no longer talk to. So this is me just saying it because when she was talking about George Floyd and all these other people, beyond just celebrating Black history or taking advantage of days, and then now all of a sudden Juneteenth is very important to the United States. If someone's exceptional, if you love somebody, celebrate them. I did something for Black History Month for a company, and I spotlighted Cleveland Sellers, who's actually the father of Bakari Sellers, but he was a part of SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and he had to go through a lot because he really cared about civil rights. But what he did, instead of being bitter and being mad, in his older years, he was one of the main staples for the University of South Carolina's African American Studies program. And I can say I'm honored to know his son, but I'm also honored to have him as my advisor when I was doing my African American Studies minor, because that's living history right there. Helping people of today and tomorrow understand our history so that we can build a brighter future. Thank you.
Well, I want to say, as always, anytime I have any of these conversations and talking with Kevin and Son, I always learn a lot more than I teach. And I know I'm constantly teaching, very didactic. So it's out there. The symbol behind my head shows the power between old school knowledge passing on to younger people. And because of all the colors that are in there, no one's ever asked me, it represents everyone, no matter what your choice of partners are, no matter what your sexuality is in life, no matter where you come from. This world only exists because we work together. By having these uncomfortable conversations, we're facing the truth. And it's vital for us to move on, that we acknowledge the truth, and we let the truth help us make our decisions on how we interact and react to people every single day. Hope is part of my purpose, helping other people every single day. I've asked each and every last one of you guys the question on what makes you feel like a Black American and what makes you feel good about being a Black American. It wasn't until this past Olympics when I watched the first Black American speed skater win the gold medal, and a white person sacrificed her position on that team for another to prevail, that gave me hope that humanity had a greater purpose over profit or the color of your skin. We have a lot of work to do in our justice system. We have a lot of work to do in our own hearts and our own biases between our own people versus the color of our skin, the way our hair is, the size of our body type. We have to relinquish the control of the grandfathers that run our country and give the control back to the people. Because that's what politics was all about. If you look at the definition of politics, it was about the people, not the 75% of the people that have control the wealth that run this country. It's the people that are going to make a difference. We cannot evolve until we recognize humanity and value human life, no matter what color your skin is, no matter where you come from originally. If you call this place, America, your home, it cannot be the land of the free and the brave until you allow it to be the land of the free and the brave for all humans that occupy this space. So this is a very special episode, and it became personal. I know we didn't cover every single conversation about being Black, our Black history, but we covered a conversation that needed to be had. I want to thank my listeners for tuning in and listening. And for some of you that this conversation was uncomfortable, I'm proud that you stuck around long enough to hear the end of this podcast interview. I want you to look at the people on this panel. We have people that came to America that have embraced this country, and they have shared their life experiences with you. We have a young person that is our future of this country that we call home. You have to embrace the conversation that she has and make notes, take notes. If you like what you've heard, please share it. Go to RMK Productions and Network on our YouTube page and subscribe, hit the little bell and follow. If you have any questions or like to be part or a guest on here, go to info@rmkproductions.net. I want to thank everyone for taking time in your day to share this space with me. This was uncut. We're going to release it just the way it is. My grandfather always says that education is not designed to make you comfortable. It's designed to make you think. Reach one, teach one. And with that said, we'll fade to black. Thank you, everyone. That's it. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
That was nice.
I forgot to put my IG handle, but that's okay. It's fine.
Well, you know something? Let's go back. I can edit this in. Denise, how do people get in touch with you? I forgot to ask that. I got so involved in the conversation.
For me, it's Dennis Poems Healing Through Poetry. That's what I have on IG.
All right, Vanessa, how do people get in touch with you?
You can follow me at Instagram at Vanessa Gracious Gift.
All right. Ife, how do they get in touch with you?
Okay. That go-to, and you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Clubhouse. In fact, Clubhouse is where I met Kevin.
All right. And what I'm going to ask both of you, just to make sure my editing team puts that in there, Please send me your links to your social media accounts with your name and the links to there, and I'll make sure that when we post it, it gets posted with that. And please follow and subscribe RMK Productions. And when the video gets released, please share it with your social circle and ask those in your social circles to do the same. I think this was a very powerful interview. I think it could be used in schools or any other platforms just in order to give you something to think about. And I'm going to bow to each and every last one of you. And I'm so grateful and thankful for you guys doing what you did. I love you guys all.
Thank you for the invite.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was awesome.
It was awesome.
All right, hearts. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank